Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Is Ripple and also XRP losing to Stellar and XLM? Well, it's a fair enough question. Take a look at this headline. This comes from Bloomberg. MoneyGram draws takeover interest from Stellar Advent. Now, I'm going to assume that everybody's well aware that Ripple did partner a couple years back with MoneyGram. They were utilizing XRP as a bridge currency via on-demand liquidity, Ripple's proprietary software. And then, as a result of the fallout, the SEC going after Ripple, it just destroyed the opportunity to utilize XRP in many markets. There were a lot of legal uncertainties for MoneyGram, and it frankly destroyed the partnership in terms of there actually being usefulness there. Now, on a personal level, it was very clear. They, both Ripple and MoneyGram, all their executives, they handled it very adult-like, and they said, look, based on what's going on here, we can't proceed right now, but we're open to reevaluating, a potential partnership at some point in the future. But it was the SEC that ultimately set off, frankly, venture capital firms and all sorts of others interested in acquiring MoneyGram to start looking down that path, because it's a different setup now. Because mind you, Ripple owned a bunch of MoneyGram, but before all of this went down here. And also, people are questioning, okay, so you're talking about Stellar purchasing MoneyGram with a company called Advent. So Jed McCaleb, he's selling a lot of XRP. Are the sales of XRP funding all of this? I'll talk about that. But before we go any further, I do want to be clear that I don't have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about XRP and Ripple and crypto just in general. But that's all that's going on here, damn it. All right, so into this piece. MoneyGram International Inc., one of the largest money transfer services in the United States, has received preliminary takeover interest from Stellar Development Foundation and private equity firm Advent International, according to people familiar with the matter. So let me pause here and also be clear, because I did state just a moment ago that Ripple owned a bunch of MoneyGram, but that was in the form of stock, and it was a substantial portion. I don't remember what the percentage of ownership was off the top of my head, but it was something. But that didn't give Ripple any sort of special managerial position at all. It was purely they own the company, but not running it whatsoever, which is kind of important considering where Ripple is in the chain of command, if you will, because Ripple is selling their software suite to remittance companies and banks, right? And so if Ripple were effectively running MoneyGram, then they'd be competing against the rest of their customers. So that is not what was functionally happening. Yes, there was a financial interest, but there wasn't any special command over that. What we're talking about here is different. What we're talking about here is Stellar, in conjunction with Advent, which as I understand, is really they're really the thrust for, in terms of the financial portion of what's going on. They're really the one that's the entity that's providing the thrust here. In this case, there would be ownership. Now, we don't know the specifics of what this would look like, but presumably there would be some sort of managerial control, which also makes me wonder. So, like Stellar, I've said for the longest time, like Stellar, in terms of what they present their mission to be, I mean, maybe one day they'll have something that's equivalent to on-demand liquidity using XLM, Stellar Lumens. Maybe that could potentially happen at some point. But their mission from the beginning has been very, very different from what Ripple is going for. Like Stellar, they're seeking to bank the unbanked. Like, you're not hearing Ripple talk about that. Ripple's just talking about changing the way in which money moves around the planet. And so in the way that XRP and XLM have been positioned, I haven't seen a ton of overlap. Though even if there is overlap, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. Like, just to be transparent, I've owned Stellar Lumens since 2017. I probably bought it in November of 2017, frankly. So I've owned it about as long as I've held XRP. Now, I happen to hold a lot more XRP, but even if they're going to be used for the same use case ultimately in the end, like, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I have nothing against competition, and if I start to see that utility sufficiently matters, people are investing more in one cryptocurrency over another based on utility, and if I see that XLM, Stellar Lumens, actually starts to really just dominate and it's crushing XRP, well, I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to run with XLM too then. I'll hedge my bets. I'll invest in both. Why not? Why would I not do that? I don't know for sure how this is all going to pan out. I'm just saying at this point in time, I'm not seeing Stellar Lumens being positioned for the same use case. Now, if we start to see something like that happens, if there's ever any concerns for XRP, yeah, I'll be shouting it from the rooftops. But right now, XRP is one of the few cryptocurrencies on the planet that's actually functionally used in enterprise-grade software. It's exceedingly rare, in fact. And so it's cool. But anyway, the piece continues. San Francisco-based Stellar, which oversees a network for facilitating cross-border payments, is working with Advent on a potential acquisition of MoneyGram, said the people, who asked to not be identified because the matter isn't public. So looks this leaked out, apparently. No final decision has been made, and Stellar and Advent could opt to not proceed with a deal, they said. Representatives for MoneyGram and Advent declined to comment. A representative for Stellar Development couldn't immediately be reached for comment. And then they go on to talk about how the stock price of MoneyGram actually rose, apparently because of this news. MoneyGram currently worth $902 million, and so I just Googled it real quick, and what you see on your screen here, this is a 5-day chart for the stock price of MoneyGram, and indeed, you can see the spike happened when the news broke, so it's perfectly correlated, so in this case, I think there's some clear causation there, not just correlation here. Anyway, its piece continues, though. And the price, what is the price? $11.49. By the way, when Ripple partnered with MoneyGram a couple years back, the stock price was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $1.40, somewhere around there. And so again, now from $1.40 to $11.49. Isn't that something? And MoneyGram, they really have, to their credit, been doing everything that they can to modernize, because the way money moves around the planet is substantially changing. So I have been talking about that from time to time on the channel as well. But anyway, MoneyGram has been a takeover target for years, as more people turn to online payments and away from old-school money transfer services. Chinese financial services conglomerate Ant Group agreed to buy MoneyGram in 2017, but walked away after pushback from regulators. Rival money transfer provider Western Union sought to acquire the company last year, people familiar with the matter said at the time. And so, founded in 2014, though, Stellar Development is a non-profit that supports the Stellar Network, an open-source platform that helps people and companies move money around the world and in different currencies using blockchain, the digital ledger that underpins cryptocurrencies, according to its website. And so, as far as what Stellar's intent would be in owning MoneyGram, well, look, there's no way any of us can know for sure, but it's fun to speculate a little bit. MoneyGram, they're connected in, I'm pulling this from memory admittedly, but I believe I remember MoneyGram CEO Alex Holmes cite that MoneyGram is operating in over 20,000 corridors. There's pretty much every corridor you can imagine on the planet, every mishmash of a couple hundred different countries and this and that. So there's all sorts of different corridors the world over. And, as far as how this would benefit Stellar, if their mission is if it's really more so functionally the actual movement of money, at some point, if they're not going to solve the settlement issue, then they're not truly solving a problem. So it does make you wonder: is there going to be a stronger push for an on-demand liquidity type product that does exactly so? Mind you, on-demand liquidity utilizing XRP as a bridge currency, converting from one fiat currency to another, would Stellar have a much stronger push for something like that? Because I don't see stuff like that in the headlines. I don't see major development. But outside of the utilization of a cryptocurrency within the MoneyGram setup, what's the benefit for Stellar? What are they working towards here? I mean, yes, there's payment technology that you can utilize to because look, payments, to be clear, there's payments and there's settlement. And so the payment side of this, even with Ripple, you're not talking about utilizing a cryptocurrency, so there could be some sort of benefit there. I mean, is there additional MoneyGram technology that Stellar finds sufficiently advanced, since they have been, like I said, they actually have been improving their setup for the digital age? Is there something sufficiently compelling for Stellar to buy in that regard? There's no way for us to know. We're not privy to the specifics. I'm just not sure. And then so I'm wondering these things, and then I'm sitting here looking at how Stellar has been positioning themselves, and it's a bit curious. So there's got to be some sort of perceived benefit if they're even looking down this path, and so we'll see what happens. But it's just in the meantime worth mentioning a few things, because I think it'd be remiss if I didn't cover the following in my video. Here's a couple tweets from an attorney named Arturo Portilla, who wrote the following. And I got some stuff to say about this, but wrote, MoneyGram has received preliminary takeover interest from Stellar Development Foundation and private equity firm Advent International. Wouldn't it be funny if Stellar acquires MoneyGram and XLM, which is Stellar Lumen's cryptocurrency, ends up being deemed a security by the SEC? And so, doesn't the risk persist? Because there are certain similarities between XRP and XLM, and not just from a tech perspective, the way they've been treated and introduced into the market. Not that everything's exactly the same, but that's not the point. The point is there isn't sufficient clarity. So what if XLM actually ended up being deemed a security, and what if it's actually after implementation? Like, what if there is an on-demand liquidity style setup here? So check out this next tweet from Arturo Portilla. Another possible scenario: Ripple wins the case against the SEC, setting a judicial precedent that helps XLM indirectly. Thanks to Ripple, who initially convinced MoneyGram to use crypto, mind you, Stellar and MoneyGram are now cleared to use XLM in on-demand liquidity-like products. Now, that would really grind my gears, because that would be a clear instance of the government effectively choosing winners and losers, because XRP was being used via on-demand liquidity with MoneyGram. That's just been completely destroyed and decimated. There is no Ripple MoneyGram partnership any longer. And if there's a buyout like this, I don't think that it would ever be coming back here. I'd be quite surprised anyway. Nothing's certain, I suppose. I'd just be very surprised here. But wouldn't it be something if that partnership between Ripple and MoneyGram was destroyed because of the SEC? And then there's some sort of actual legal clarity. What if that is what happens? And then as a result of all this, Stellar gets to benefit rather than Ripple. Man, well, and again, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world for Ripple. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world for XRP. RippleNet is real. It is continuing to grow. XRP is being used on a daily basis as a bridge currency. And I think that's just going to increase because there's true value to be had there. Now, to anybody that's wondering, okay, is Jed McCaleb selling his XRP actually funding something like this? And I just say, no, that's silliness. If you have any evidence, then fine. I mean, prove me wrong, and it'd make for an interesting story. I'll be happy to talk about it on the channel. I'd be very surprised. Like, to me, that would be just as ridiculous as saying that Brad Garlinghouse or Chris Larson selling their XRP is funding Ripple and everything that they've been doing to build out RippleNet and on-demand liquidity. It's silly. It doesn't make sense here. Now, what I've got on your screen here right now is a website that tracks Jed's XRP balance, and he's currently got 906 million XRP remaining. And so, depending on how quickly he sells this, potentially he could have 0 XRP remaining in 82 days. And so the way this is set up per a legal agreement with Ripple, the amount of XRP he's allowed to sell, it's based on global volume. And so that's why I feel if the more activity there is in terms of crypto, buying and selling of XRP specifically, and the higher the price, all this and that, the more he can sell. So if we do see a spike, instead of this being sold, spike in XRP, instead of this all being sold in 82 days, could happen a lot faster, actually. It just depends on when we see the next leg up for the crypto markets in general here. So on the whole, no, I mean, this isn't going to be the end of the world for Ripple or anything like that. We don't even know exactly what the partnership might look like for Stellar, what the advantages necessarily would be. It's fun to speculate on it. But yeah, I mean, it would be absolutely outrageous if Stellar actually implements something like on-demand liquidity utilizing XLM, and then that would just be an example of the SEC, the federal government of the United States, picking winners and losers. Hopefully that's not what happens here. And this, again, this may not even go through. So we shall see. I'll update you as more becomes available, but that's all we've got right now. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.